Okay, so this Maamar that we're going to start right now, it's called To Understand the Meaning of the Candles of Chanukah. Here's from Rabbi Khan that the word Inyan in Hebrew means the essence of something. Inyan is the root of the word lisanyan, which means to be interested. When we say the word lisanyan or Inyan, you're talking about a concept, but you're asking, what am I interested in about this concept? I mean, it means you want to go very deep. When you say the word Inyan, you want to go to the very core of something. So to understand the essence of what the candles of Chanukah are about, this discourse is a continuation of the discourse before Yitis Kislev, but it's possible for us, I think, to understand it even without doing discourse before. It's a very, very deep discourse and goes into the very essence of what Chanukah is about. It's the last, so far, edited Maamar of the Rebbe on Chanukah. And let's go right to it. The Rebbe asks questions in this Maamar and goes to a different place than was places which no one traveled before in Chassidus about the candles of Chanukah. Let's go to it. There's Chanukah to understand the essence of the candles of Chanukah. Although the Chachamim established the mitzvah of lighting the menorah because of the miracle that happened with the candles of the menorah in the temple, whenever the sages establish something, they always establish it in a similar way to the biblical standard. So if they made this menorah to be a commemoration for the menorah in the temple, so it would seem that they should make the menorah to be just like it. Yet, however, there are several differences between the menorah that we light and the menorah that Kohen Gadol lit in the temple. Number one, the misparim, the number of candles. The candles of the temple were 7, while the candles of our menorah are 8. The mokim in the place where the menorah stood. The menorah Zev, you can see your face. I know you're walking your dog. It's okay. Anyways, so the candles of the menorah were placed in the Beis Hamikdash, inside, in the holy place, in the Heichal. Within the Heichal itself, it was on the south. In Chassidus, in Yiddishkeit, and Kabbalah, south is associated with the right. Just factually, when you walked in the Beis Hamikdash, you walked in from east to west. And the south, therefore, was on your right or left? No, it was on your left, right? East, west, north, south. Yeah, it was on your left. But in general, in Yiddishkeit, the top of the compass is the east, because the sun rises in the east. And also, according to Kabbalah, east is associated with the sphere of Chachma, the first sphere, the highest sphere. So east is the highest. East is the top of the compass. And if east is the top of the compass, so then south is on the right. So although physically you walk in the Beis Hamikdash, there was on your left, but in general, south is associated with the right. So the temple's menorah was both inside and it was on the right. But our menorahs are, number one, they're on the outside. It's supposed to be really halachically, there is an advantage of a menorah being in the outside. Shulchan Aruch says the reason why it's not on the outside is because of the danger that existed. There was because of the dangers that the Jewish people had, but and that's remained the custom until today. However, the Talmud says a place in there is supposed to be outside, and number two, where on the outside it's supposed to be opposite of the mezuzah. The mezuzah is supposed to be on the right when you enter the home, and the menorah is supposed to be on the left. So the menorah is associated with left, and the temple's menorah is associated with right. Outside on the left versus inside on the right. Further, Neir's Chanukah mitzvah lanichem of Neir's Manakasam. Also, the time that they were lit, the Neir's Hamikdash should liku miplagamincha meshazman ma sha'arvia kivtishchacham time for lighting the menorah in the temple was before dark. It was about an hour and 50 minutes before sunset. Unlike the candle of Chanukah, which is specifically supposed to be lit when the sun sets. The Friedrich Rebbe adds another point and says that the candle of the menorah, our menorah, is supposed to be done specifically in the outside. There's no other mitzvah that we find except for the paradum, except for the red heifer, that's supposed to be specifically in the outside. And the previous Rebbe explains in that series of discourses, beginning with the words Pad B'Shalom Tafshin Daled, 1944, that the reason why the candle of the menorah is on the outside is in order to publicize the miracle. But seemingly this answer isn't sufficient. The mitzvah of Purim is also supposed to publicize the miracle. That's part and parcel of why we send gifts to the poor and gifts to each other. It's all to announce and to publicize this incredible miracle that happened in the story of Purim. And yet, we don't do the Suda, we don't have a celebration outside. So while the story of Chanukah and the story of Purim are the same in the sense that they're both about publicizing the miracle, yet there's a distinction between them, that the mitzvah of Purim is done inside, and the mitzvah there is the only mitzvah that is done in the Rishus Rabbim, in the outside. So although we see that the menorah that we light is a commemoration of the menorah that was lit in the temple, we find all these distinctions between them, and the question is, why? If it's meant to be a commemoration, so why isn't it exactly the same? The answer is base, as explained in the Maamar, that the point of the candles of the menorah is to give light to the darkness. And through the war of the Greeks, to make the Jewish people forget your Torah, to make them go against your will, and especially subsequent to their arrival in the Heichal, in the Beis Hamikdash, and contaminating all the oil in the Heichal. The next page is that there was a very great force in Klippa, a very great force to contend with of darkness. And therefore, when the house of the Chashmoneans, when they were victorious over the Greeks, the Chashmonaim won. There's Chanukah, they established to light the menorah in order to give light to the darkness, and that it answers all the questions. And that's why we light the menorah specifically when the sun sets. Because the whole point of the candles of the menorah is to give light to the darkness. And the place we put the menorah is outside, and on the left, why do we do it on the outside and why on the left? Because the whole point of the lighting of the menorah is to give light to the darkness of the public domain, the separate mountains. This public domain, the outside, resembles in Chassidus a being that feels that there are many forces. It's not just the one singular domain of Hashem. A public domain, and as literally a public domain, a public street, doesn't belong to any one person. You feel in this public domain that there are many different things going on over there, many different forces going on over there. In the language of the Zohar, Turi de Pru, that it feels like there are separate mountains. There are very strong, powerful beings there that are other, that are not from Hashem. That's what it seems like. And so the goal of lighting the menorah in the public domain, in the outside, is in order to give light to that very dark space, that space which feels that there are many forces. And that's why the menorah is lit on the left, because the nourishment of the public domain, the nourishment of Klippa, the nourishment of this division, of this plurality, is from the side of the left. In general, Kabbalah, right is associated with revelation, and left is associated with contraction, with concealment, with judgment, with withholding. Right is the side of giving, and left is the side of holding back. So how is there a public domain? What caused it to be public domain? Because Hashem hides his light, he holds back his light. And that also explains why we have 8 candles. Because the reason why our menorah has the ability to give light to the darkness, even the darkness of the public domain, is because the light of the menorah is a light that is above and beyond the entire spiritual cosmos. That's why it's 8. Why 8? Number 8 indicates a level that is beyond the entire spiritual cosmos. That is when you get into the Chanukah. That's also why the holiday has 8 days, because the light that shines in the days of Chanukah is a light that is beyond the entire spiritual cosmos. I'll never forget this exchange I had with this gentleman who was telling me about one of his employees, was asking him about our holidays. She was telling him about her holiday and what is it, and what he's doing your holiday in Chanukah, and he told me she doesn't get it. She thinks this is like a real holiday. Well, a real holiday, of course, is like Pesach, Shavuos, Sukkot isn't a real holiday. And I remember thinking, like, well, man, you don't get it. Chanukah is a real holiday. Chanukah is a holiday when there's a light of Hashem that shines in the world that's beyond the entire spiritual cosmos. This is big. So the reason why it's so big, why it's eight candles, why it's 8 days, why it's outside, why it's on the left, why it's in the time of darkness, it's all the same reason. There was a lot of darkness in the world. And to contend with this, Hashem gave us the light of the menorah to banish the darkness, to give light to the darkness. The word banish is probably a wrong word, as we shall see in the Maamar. But to give light to the darkness, therefore, we need a higher kind of godly energy, and which is connected to the number 8, as opposed to 7. 7 is associated with the days of the week and the natural order. 8 represents something which is infinite. So we need the infinite light of Hashem to give light to the darkness. Everyone follow so far? Okay. There's Chanukah. That's what we need, this light. But how did we get it? This light, which is beyond the spiritual cosmos, that will shine during the days of Chanukah, and especially it shines in the candles of Chanukah. How did it come down to the world? It came down to the world through the sacrifice, the dedication, Matisyahu and his children. That means there are 2 components of the relationship between the light and the darkness that existed then. There are 2 factors in this relationship between light and darkness. Number 1, there's a perspective of how it is from here in this world, looking upwards, and there's a perspective of how things are looking downwards. Because of the incredible darkness that existed then, there was a revelation of something very deep within a person. A person needed to contend with this darkness. The going gets tough, the tough get going. So in order for a Jew to survive the darkness then, how did he do it? The Jew had to reveal within himself his power of dedication, his power of Mesiras Nefesh. Because there was so much darkness, so to survive, you had to bring out that power of Mesiras Nefesh within you. And through their Mesiras Nefesh, they drew down from the essence of Hashem, who is beyond the entire spiritual cosmos. Because they had to reach into their very core, they also caused a revelation, so to speak, from their core of Hashem, so to speak, in the essence of Hashem. The darkness elicited this kind of response. Think about Jews who lived in the time of Stalinist Russia or other places of persecution. in order to contend with what was going on, the only way to survive was with Mesiras Nefesh. So the darkness brought this additional light naturally. You needed to have that additional light to contend with the darkness. That's one way the darkness and the light of Chanukah are connected. The darkness brought about this new light. The darkness evoked this new light. And then there's another connection. When once Matasio has Mesiras Nefesh, and God gives the Jewish people this new light, what happens now is from above to below. Now this light is able to shine into the darkness too. Here, observe. So first of all, the darkness brought the light. Second of all, the light banishes the darkness. So the relationship between the darkness and the light Mordechai is twofold. Number one, it is the darkness that brought about this additional inner strong response of the neshama. It revealed inner light within ourselves. And number two, when this inner light in ourselves was revealed, that illuminates the darkness. So darkness causes the light, and darkness is then illuminated by that same light that it caused. And this is the reason for all the above aforementioned differences between the candles of the menorah and the candles of the Beis Hamikdash. The reason why the menorah only had 7 candles is because there was no Mesiras Nefesh needed to light the menorah in the temple. Therefore, the kind of light that was there was 7. 7 associated with the spiritual cosmos. There was no special dedication needed to light that menorah, and therefore the kind of light that was brought down was 7. And since this light, which is not beyond the spiritual cosmos, which is within the spiritual cosmos, does not have the ability to give light to the darkness, because darkness can contend with it. The darkness is also a force that is parallel to it and it needs to contend with. Therefore, the place of the Neret was not in the place of darkness. It was inside the Beis Hamikdash, and it was on the right side. And the time it was lit was specifically before the sunset, because it didn't have the ability to give light to the darkness. But the candles of our menorah, which were brought to the world to the sacrifice of Matasiyahu, it's the number 8, which is a light which is beyond the spiritual cosmos and has the ability to give light to the darkness as well. So that explains not just the reason why the sages established it this way, but the why. How do we get there? What gave us this menorah? What gave us this light? Mesiras Nefesh of Matasio, his miracle within himself, his going beyond himself and fighting against the impossible odds of his small group of Maccabim against the huge Greek army, his incredible Mesiras Nefesh to keep the Torah despite everything, that is what brought about this new light of Hashem that never came to the world before. And that brought a new mitzvah that wasn't in the world before, and a new revelation of godliness which was higher than everything that was before, higher than the spiritual cosmos. So Neres of the Beis Hamikdash didn't have that Mesiras Nefesh, and therefore there was a limitation. It was 7. It was inside. It couldn't overcome the darkness. Okay. The previous Rebbe then explains, based upon this, this explains also why our menorah is meant to be on the entrance of our home, on the outside, in the public domain. Although we don't find any other mitzvah that's supposed to be done in the public domain, this one is different. Why? Because the goal of the menorah is to give light to the public domain. The Gemara used the expression, Gemara says that the menorah is supposed to be lit until Kalya Rigel Talmudai, until the Talmudayim leave the marketplace, till the feet of the Talmudayim stop walking on the marketplace. The Talmudayim different opinions about who they were. Some say that they were servants that were hired by Shem HaMelech to build the second Beis Hamikdash, instead of the first Beis Hamikdash, and they rebelled against Shem HaMelech. That's why they called Talmudoi. They were Talmud to rebel, and they were sort of like a gypsy-like nation that hung around the marketplace, and they would gather wood. At the end of the day, I guess they needed to warm themselves because they were outside. So the Torah says, how long should your menorah be lit? Your menorah should be lit until they stop. They're the ones who stay in the marketplace the longest. When they start walking around, that's when you're finished. That's when your menorah needs to shine until. That's a simple meaning of what the Gemara says. Another meaning of it is, deeper meaning of the same Gemara, or rather the soul of what the Gemara is saying is, in order to give light to the place of the public domain, and not just the public domain, but the forces that rebel against Hashem, you need that the menorah is supposed to burn, supposed to shine, and it's supposed to evoke in the hearts of those who are in a state of rebellion, that they also should be inspired to be closer to Hashem. The word kalya, rigel tamudai, on the surface means, the simple way it's usually translated is, until there is no longer any feet of those Talmudim walking in the marketplace. But the word kalya also comes from the word kilayin, which means yearning. Until the Talmudim, until those who are in a state of rebellion, who are in a state of, in a place of darkness, and they are moving, and they're advancing, and they're going and adding more darkness in the world, that's what they're doing. The menorah has the ability to not just to stop them, not just the kalya, not just that they should stop adding darkness to the world, but so the menorah has the ability to have this profound effect on them that there should be a transformation in them. So instead of them going against Hashem, they should be in a state of klois hanefesh, of complete, total yearning to cleave to Hashem. Kalya ril talmudoi, so that the talmudoim are transformed with klois hanefesh. That's why the menorah is lit on the outside. But there's still a question. Question like this. This explanation requires further analysis. The key when what about Purim? Purim also there was a sacrifice. In fact, in Purim there was a much greater sacrifice. How was Purim a greater sacrifice? Who were the people that had Mesiras Nefesh time of Chanukah? Matisyo and his children. They're the main people that sacrificed. Who had Mesiras Nefesh during the time of the story of Purim? All the Jewish people. Haman said he's going to annihilate all the Jewish people. And Mordechai gathers all the Jewish children in public. And he learns them Torah. And he inspires everyone in the whole generation to stand with Mesiras Nefesh and not to give up their religion. So if there was Mesiras Nefesh in the time of Purim, how come we don't find in the time of the story of Purim that there's a special law established to give light to the darkness, to give light to the outside? If it's Mesiras Nefesh that causes this ability, this new light of Hashem to give light to the darkness, then that should be a Purim as well. Mesiras Nefesh or Chanukah was mainly by Matisyahu and his children. Mesiras Nefesh of Purim was by other Jewish people. And yet, and yet there was no mitzvah established during the time of Purim that it should be done in public. Only by Chanukah do we have this rule that everything's supposed to be done on the outside. And the question is why. So we're answering a lot of questions, but we're leaving with a question. We gave an explanation for the various differences between the menorah of Chanukah and the Beis Hamikdash. Our menorah comes through Mesiras Nefesh, and therefore it has a greater force. It's able to give light to the darkness, and therefore it's specifically done at nighttime, specifically done on the outside, specifically done on the left side. But we're still wondering though, so then what about Purim? Why doesn't Purim have that? We'll continue tomorrow and we'll figure it out. Have a wonderful Yontif. Litraot.